The Elorian Grand Fleet was not merely dying, it was being unmade. Composed of crystalline lattices and stabilized plasma, their vessels were symphonies of light, the apex of galactic engineering. But the Devourer didn't respect art. It was a tear in the fabric of spacetime, a swirling maw of violet lightning that fed on the sophisticated. When the Elorians fired their beams of concentrated starfire, the Devourer drank deep. It swelled, growing brighter with every shot, its frequency scream rising to a pitch that shattered their diamond-hard hulls from light years away. I stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, the only human ship in a fleet of thousands. We were the ironclads, hired laborers hired to move heavy crates because the Elorians disdained physical exertion. We watched the majestic fleet flicker and die. A dreadnought, miles long, fired a volley of plasma torpedoes. Devourer didn't dodge. It opened, a mouth of swirling math, and swallowed the detonation. The creature pulsed and the dreadnought flickered out, its crew erased. "Shield harmonics are failing," the Elorian admiral transmitted, his voice vibrating with harmonic terror. "Our weapons feed it, we cannot retreat, we are the feast." My tactical officer Vance looked at the railgun readouts. "It eats energy, sir, it drinks shields, but it doesn't eat dirt." "Correct," I said, staring at the swirling maw. "Doesn't eat meat either, we're invisible to it." "So we run?" Vance asked. "No," I whispered, the weight of the math crushing my chest. "We're the only things in this sector made of matter, we don't run. We load the guns." Welcome note, welcome to Beyond Impossible. I am the ultra-elite director. This channel is dedicated to a single, unshakable truth. Humanity conquers what others deem unthinkable. Day's story is a testament to instrumentalization of the self, the terrifying human capacity to view our own bodies not as sacred vessels, but as ammunition. And the enemy feeds on technology, the only weapon left is biology. When the shield fails, the body takes the blow. We are the variable the universe forgot to calculate. We are the bullet. The tactical display was a graveyard in motion. The Elorian Grand Fleet, the pride of the Spur, was disintegrating. Their ships, beautiful sculptures of hard light and force fields, weren't just exploding, they were fading. Devourer was a vacuum for energy, sucking the luminescence right out of their hulls, leaving behind only cold, dead dust. "It's adaptive." The Elorian admiral's voice trembled over the comms, his usually melodic tone fractured by static. "We increased shield frequency. It only made it stronger. We are fueling our own extinction." I watched the main screen, my jaw tight. A cruiser tried to jump to warp. Devourer lashed out with a violet tendril, catching the warp bubble and popping it like a soap bubble. The ship reel-spaced broken and was instantly consumed. "Admiral, break off!" I shouted into the comms. "Scatter your ships." "We cannot," he replied, his despair palpable. "Our engines generate a warp signature. It tracks the power. To run is to die tired." On the Vanguard, my bridge crew worked in silence. We were relics. Our ship ran on fusion reactors and steel plates. We had no shields, just thick armor plating designed to stop micrometeoroids, not energy leviathans. We had no beam weapons, just chemical thrusters and mass drivers. The Devourer, we were a rock floating in a river of lightning, invisible, irrelevant. "Sir," Vance said, pulling up the sensor logs with trembling hands. "Look at the debris field, the wrecks of their support drones. They're just floating through the entity." The drones were non-powered hulks. The Devourer ignored them completely. It craved the spark, the hum of civilization. It was a glutton for the advanced, the refined. It had no appetite for the crude. "Or primitive," I muttered, the realization cold and sharp. "We're the only things here that are dead weight." "Exactly," Vance said, checking the railgun integrity. "It won't see us coming, but we have a problem. We have no nukes. No warheads, just kinetic slugs, tungsten rods." "Then we use what we have," I said, looking at the mass driver coordinates. "We have to break its frequency, we have to shatter the glass." "But sir," Vance protested, "we can't get close enough." Even if we do, a tungsten slug will just pass through the energy matrix. It's not solid. Then we make it solid, I said, my mind racing toward the terrible solution. Give it something it can't digest. Calculate impact mass, I ordered, my voice steady despite the adrenaline souring my gut. Standard tungsten slugs won't disrupt a waveform that size, Vance said, his fingers flying over the console. The math is brutal, sir. We need a projectile with a variable internal mass, something that explodes not with energy but with matter. We need to shatter its resonance from the inside. A solid slug passes through. We need a chaotic impact. We have no warheads, I said. What do we have? Speed, Vance answered. The railguns can accelerate a drop pod to 1 light speed. And we have density. And the pods, I asked, though I already knew the answer. Empty their debris, but if they were occupied. He stopped, looking up at me. The horror in his eyes told me he had done the calculation. Biological mass is dense. Water, bone, calcium, iron in the blood. If we hit it with enough organic impact, the fluid dispersion could collapse its frequency. Organic impact, I repeated. The euphemism tasted like ash. You mean us? The Elorian admiral cut in, his light form flickering with confusion on the holopad. Human commander, your vessel is charging its primitive launchers. What are you doing? You have no energy weapons. You cannot harm a being of pure resonance. We're not shooting energy, Admiral, I said, keying the shipwide intercom. My hand didn't shake, it couldn't. We're shooting matter. I looked at Vance. Prep the drop pods, all of them. Volunteer protocol. Sir, Vance whispered, we don't have enough pods for the whole crew and the G-forces, the acceleration. We don't need the whole crew, I said, the mask of command firmly in place. We need the payload. Get the Marines ready. The cargo bay of the Vanguard was a cathedral of silence. I stood on the walkway above the railgun loaders. Below me, 500 Marines checked their harnesses. They weren't checking rifles. They were checking the seal of their helmets. They weren't preparing to fight, they were preparing to impact. The air smelled of ozone and fierce sweat. You don't have to do this, I said over the local comms. This is not an order. This is a trajectory solution. The likelihood of survival is 0. Sergeant Miller looked up. His face was obscured by his visor, but his voice was clear and steady. We saw the readouts, Commander. Tungsten bounces off. We don't. We're the heavy stuff. The Elorian admiral materialized on the holopad again, his form stuttering with shock. You are firing your own people. This is madness. You are throwing corpses at a god. This is barbarism. They aren't corpses yet, Miller grunted, climbing into the acceleration cradle. And they aren't just bodies. They're kinetic rods with a guidance system. We can adjust trajectory mid-flight. We can hit the sweet spot. A rock can't do that. Admiral, I cut in, your shields are gone in 3 minutes. We have 1 shot. If we fire standard slugs, we ping off. If we fire us, we shatter the frequency. The pressure alarms blared. The Devourer was expanding, its electromagnetic wake beginning to ripple through the Vanguard's hull. The Elorians were screaming in panic over the open channels. The window was closing. Fire control, I said, turning my back on the brave souls in the tubes. Lock coordinates, spread the impact pattern. We need to break the waveform, not just dent it. Firing solutions locked, Vance said. His voice cracked. Mass drivers spooling up. Godspeed, Marines. I slammed my hand onto the firing stud. The ship shuddered violently as the magnetic accelerators roared, turning human beings into missiles traveling at a fraction of light speed. Impact in 3 seconds, Vance whispered. The sensors flared white. The Devourer screamed a sound that tore through the hull plating. Direct hit, I shouted. Status. The frequency, it's fluctuating, Vance yelled, hope cracking through the terror. We heard it, we actually heard it. The waveform is destabilizing. But on the screen, the wound was already closing. The violet light pulsed angrily, knitting the tear shut. It's healing, I realized, my stomach dropping. It's adapting to the mass. We broke the skin, but we didn't break the neck. We need more mass. We need a bigger punch. Capacitors are fried. Vance shouted, slamming his fist against the console. "We can't fire another volley. Rails are warped." The Elorian Admiral's voice returned, laced with static and panic. "Human Commander, the entity is targeting your position. It has registered you as a threat. It is preparing a discharge. You must flee." On the screen, the violet swirl concentrated. A lance of pure destruction was forming, aimed directly at the Vanguard. We were out of time, out of slugs, and out of Marines. "Flee where?" I asked the empty bridge. "We can't outrun a light-speed weapon." I looked at the railgun readouts, dead. Then I looked at the engine readouts. They were still green. "Admiral," I said, the realization hitting me with cold clarity, "your tractor beams. You use them to move asteroids for mining, correct?" "Yes, but—" "Lock onto the Vanguard," I ordered. "Don't target the enemy, target us." "Commander," the Admiral's light flickered in confusion, "you wish to flee." "I wish to be thrown," I said, turning to the helmsman. "Kill the engines, kill the reactor, go full dark. Vent the atmosphere except for the bridge. We're just a rock now. Admiral, take everything you have left, every ounce of power in your dying fleet, and hurl us at that thing. We need velocity, we need to be the bullet." "You want us to fire your ship, like a projectile?" the Admiral gasped. "The impact will annihilate you, you will be paste." "We're already dead, Admiral," I replied, gripping the railing as the Vanguard shuddered. "Spin us up, aim for the center. We're going to break the neck." The Elorian fleet, desperate and broken, turned their last remaining power toward us, tractor beams locked onto our hull. The groaning of the superstructure was deafening as the external forces took hold. "Brace for acceleration," I roared over the comms. "We are the Kinetic scream." The acceleration hit us like the hand of a vengeful god. The Elorian tractor beams didn't just push, they slingshotted us. The inertial dampeners screamed, then failed catastrophically. Gravity jumped from 1G to 10, then 15, then 20. I heard the hull groan, rivets popping like gunshots in the lower decks. My body was pinned to the command console. I couldn't lift my arms. Breathing was a war. My chest felt like it was filled with concrete. Round me, the bridge crew was silent, not by discipline, but because the pressure had crushed the air from their lungs. We were paste in a can, hurtling through the void at speeds that turned steel into plasma. "Status," I choked out, the words tasting like copper. "Velocity, critical," Vance wheezed, his eyes bloodshot from burst capillaries. "Hull temperature, rising, friction from the entities, atmosphere." The Vanguard was burning. We were a meteor, but we were a meteor with a mind. "Course correction," I gasped, fighting the blackout. "We're drifting, spin, stabilizers." "It's no use, sir," the helmsman croaked. "Controls are sluggish, we're off by 3 degrees, 3 degrees. At this velocity, 3 degrees meant missing the core and skipping off the atmosphere. It meant the Elorians die for nothing. It meant the galaxy falls silent. "Open the main bay doors," I ordered. "Sir," Vance coughed, blood spraying his console. "Open them," I roared, the exertion popping a vessel in my eye. "We're a glider. We need drag, vent the atmosphere, blow the cargo." "You'll kill everyone." "Not strapped down." "They're already dead," I screamed. "Do it." The blast of depressurization was a hammer blow. The air in the ship, our oxygen, our heat, our life, tore out into the vacuum. The violent expulsion acted like a thruster. Ship shuddered, rotating on its axis. The alignment corrected. We were aimed true. A spear of meat and metal aimed at the heart of a god. The devourer filled the screen. It wasn't a swirl anymore. It was a wall of purple lightning. It sensed us now. It tried to feed, latching onto the heat of our friction, trying to dissolve us before we arrived. But we were too dense, too fast, too stubborn. "Impact in 10 seconds, Vance whispered. He reached out, his hand trembling, and placed it over mine on the console. "It was an honor, Commander." "Hold the line," I said, watching the violet light consume the view. "We are the wall." We hit the sound barrier inside the creature's atmosphere, creating a sonic boom that rippled through the entity's energy field. Then we hit the core. Time didn't stop, it shattered. Vanguard struck the Devourer's core with the force of a collapsing star. There was no fire. Fire requires oxygen. There was only the blinding, silent disintegration of steel meeting pure energy. The ship didn't just crash. Detonated. My body was torn from the chair. The G-forces should have liquefied me instantly, but the ship was breaking apart around me, absorbing the initial impact. The hull peeled away like the skin of an orange, flashing into vapor. I was exposed to the void, spinning amidst a cloud of debris, shredded metal, and the aerosolized remains of my crew. But I was still conscious. For a microsecond, suspended in the heart of the monster, I saw the truth. The Devourer wasn't solid. It was a frequency, a song of destruction held together by harmonic resonance. It had no defenses against a physical intrusion because it had never encountered anything too primitive to care about its defenses. We were the noise. We were the grit in the gears. Remaining Marines, encased in their drop pods or simply hurtling through the vacuum in their suits, slammed into the entity milliseconds after the ship. We were a shotgun blast of meat and metal. The creature tried to feed. It wrapped tendrils of violet lightning around the debris, trying to convert us into power. But it couldn't. We weren't energy. We were heavy, wet, chaotic biological matter. It tried to digest a stone and choked. Disruption began as a ripple. The perfect mathematical harmony of the entity was fouled by the intrusion of foreign mass. Blood boiled in the vacuum, creating a fine mist that scattered the energy beams. Bone fragments, traveling at relativistic speeds, tore through the creature's delicate internal structures. The density of human calcium shattered the delicate lattices of its mind. Inside the maelstrom, I saw the waveform flicker. The purple light stuttered, turning a sickly, sputtering yellow. It was screaming, not in sound, but in gravity waves that crushed my chest and stopped my heart. "You wanted energy?" I gurgled into the void, my blood freezing on my face. "Choke on this?" The resonance collapsed. The frequency couldn't hold against the sheer, unyielding mess of humanity. The Devourer imploded, folding in on itself, crushing under the weight of the very mass it had scorned. The light went out. The scream cut off. And then there was only the silence of the void. The silence that followed was heavier than the vacuum itself. Admiral Zill of the Elorian fleet drifted in the wreckage of his command ship. Violet Nightmare was gone, collapsed into a singularity of silence. In its place was a slowly expanding cloud of debris, twisted steel, frozen fluids, and pulverized rock. It was a grave marker the size of a moon. Sensors, Zill transmitted, his harmonic voice hollow and stripped of its former resonance. "Scan the impact zone, look for survivors, look for anything." There was a long pause. Then the tactical officer replied, "Admiral, there is nothing to find. The velocity of the impact. The human vessel was reduced to atoms. They are dust." Zill looked at the data stream. The pattern of the debris was chaotic, random, unlike the perfect geometry of his people. But it was effective. The Devourer was dead, suffocated by the very mass it had scorned. "They were not warriors," Zill murmured, watching a frozen shard of hull plating drift past his view screen. It was scorched black, a crude thing of rivets and welds. "They were not energy, they were gravity." He opened a channel to the remainder of the fleet. His light flickered, dimming in a gesture of mourning. "Record this day. Not as a tactical victory, but as a debt unpaid. We survive because they broke themselves against the storm. We exist because they allowed themselves to cease existing." There were no bodies to bury, no coffins to launch. It's the cold, hard truth of the universe. The soft light of the galaxy had been preserved by the hard, breaking bones of humanity. The galaxy loves its clean victories. It loves the elegant solution, the beam of light, the shield of energy, the perfect calculation. The Elorians believed they were the masters of reality because they could bend physics to their will. They thought themselves invincible because they had transcended the crude limitations of flesh. They were wrong. They forgot the oldest truth of the cosmos. Physics is a brutal landlord. It demands payment in mass and energy. When the bills come due, you cannot pay with light. You pay in blood. This is the heart of humanity. We do not conquer because we are the strongest or the smartest. We conquer because we are the most willing to break. We look at an impossible equation, a predator that eats energy, and we don't try to outthink it. We become the variable it didn't calculate. We are the ones who look at our own bodies and see not just flesh, but ammunition. We strap ourselves to the railgun. We pilot the missile into the sun. We are the kinetic scream in the silent void. While others fly, we fall. And in that falling, we crush the gods who dare to stand in our way. Thank you for watching Beyond Impossible. If you believe that the human spirit is the only weapon heavy enough to break the gods, hit that subscribe button. We are building an arsenal of stories where the stakes are extinction and the price is blood. What would you do in the firing tube? Would you strap yourself in? Would you volunteer to be the bullet? Sound off in the comments below. We read every transmission. Next time we face a different kind of silence. Place where the only way to save the galaxy is to cut out our own tongues and scream in the dark. Until then, stay hard, stay human. This is Beyond Impossible.